Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for watching us tonight. My name's Chris Hulse. I'm one of the organisers of the Aldi Chester 10K, the SR Chester Half Marathon, and the MBNA Chester Marathon and Metric Marathons, not to forget our fun runs and mini marathons as well. So thanks again for joining us tonight. I'm joined tonight by Danny Webber from Danny Webber Performance Nutrition. What we're here to talk about today is diet and nutrition for runners, and hopefully this primarily aimed at beginners stroke improvers, and really with a guide towards those of you who are building towards the Aldi Chester 10K on the 8th of March and or the SR Chester Half Marathon on the 17th of May. Although we said we were here to talk about diet and nutrition for runners, one thing we're not going to talk about is diets. I know, probably everybody else here knows that diets, short-term diets, just don't work long-term. You might lose enough weight to look a little bit better in your cosy on holiday, but long-term they ain't going to work. So Danny's here talking about diet and nutrition, and certainly the aspects that will help us in terms of us being runners. Feel free to message in with your questions. I've got a few for Danny as we go along, and what we'll do is we'll run through the main presentation, and any questions that we haven't hit off already, we'll cover off as many of those as possible before we finish. The next webinar that we'll be doing will be on Sunday the 2nd of February at 7 p.m, and that's really to help people who are building towards the Chester Half Marathon in May, and we'll talk you through training and avoiding injury and lots of advice in terms of building towards the half marathon in May. So I think we'll crack on now, Danny, so over to you for a little while to start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for the intro. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So as Chris has mentioned, he's going to run through some of the basics on nutrition to help support your running. So if you are new to it or you're looking to improve, it's those small changes that you can make that really make the difference. It's not completely changing your diet at all. I'm sure what you are doing already will be right. It's just making those small adjustments. So I'll be talking about the principles of nutrition and what the foods are that you eat and how they influence the energy that it gives you, how you can make improvements to what you eat at the right times and just how much of things you need, hydration strategies, and just giving a few examples of foods that are suitable. So when we eat food, obviously that gives us energy, and that is broken down into simple macronutrients as carbohydrates, fats and protein. And the carbohydrates and fats provide us with that energy, and protein helps more to help the body function and protect its muscle mass and everything else in the body, really. Lots of all the functionalities of the body. So if you think of your body as now you are running, you should treat yourself more as an athlete. Although you may not feel as an athlete, you should be fueling like an athlete. So carbohydrates are the body's primary energy source. So you need to make sure you're eating enough of them to really maximise your training performance, particularly those with higher intensity efforts.
Certainly, I know what Danny's talking here. As soon as you start running, class yourself as an athlete. You don't have to be an elite athlete, but as soon as you start running, class yourselves as an athlete and start looking after yourself that way. And certainly don't understate your achievements and what you're setting out to achieve.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're not treating yourself like an athlete and you're running for weight loss, for example, you're going to underfuel and you're going to struggle both in your running performance but also energy levels throughout the day. So if you're getting this right, then both goals will happen. So the carbohydrates we're talking about is a whole range of foods. So looking at your fruits and vegetables, they are carbohydrates, and they should be the primary base of the carbohydrates you eat each day. Then you're adding in more of your starchy carbohydrates, like your rice, your potatoes, pastas, breads, etc. I'm mentioning this first typically as why it's so important is carbohydrates got a lot of bad press. And having a low carbohydrate diet can work for some people, but ultimately if you're trying to maximise your training, they are very important. You will get other simple sugars as well, things like lactose, so eating dairy foods. Again, that can be a good source of carbohydrates along with proteins and fats. So your fat options, you want to focus more on the what's called the healthy fats as opposed to the bad fats. So the healthy or the good fats would be the unsaturated options, like oily fish, so salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout. They're really rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and they support the body in multiple ways, such as heart health, brain function, eye function, immune health, etc. Things like nuts, avocados, eggs, they're really good options. And having smaller amounts of the saturated fats which you get from animal products, like your dairy, meat, particularly red meat, taking off the skins from any chicken, etc. Reducing them down helps you to balance out the right types of fats you're eating. And again, fats aren't a bad thing, it's just all in moderation.
I know one thing I learned, Danny, talking about fats is fats in some ways can be a little bit better than refined sugars because it takes your body a lot longer to digest the fats, doesn't it, Danny?
Yeah.
So you don't get the crashes afterwards. So don't think fats are all bad. They can actually help and stop you having the energy crashes afterwards.
Absolutely, so. Yeah, absolutely spot on. So then the proteins, types of foods there, mainly the easiest way of getting the protein in is through the animal sources. So you are looking at meats, fish, dairy, eggs, and then nuts and seeds have a small amount of protein in but can contribute well. Vegetables have a small amount of protein in, so prioritising those meat and fish options and the other animal options will make it easier to get protein in. Vegetarians and vegans can very easily get the amount of protein they need. So things like beans, lentils, chickpeas, other legumes can really provide a good source of protein as well. So it's not impossible at all. People say you need to have protein shakes and things like that. No, you don't. You can just structure it better.
So suffice to say that vegetarian and vegan diets, they can be great, but you just need quite a lot more care in structuring what you eat to make sure you do get that balance.
Yeah, it's just not as easy as it would be for somebody who eats meat and fish, but you can very easily do it. Tofu and other alternatives are great options. We eat protein obviously to help our bodies to recover and repair after training. So when you train, your bodies and your muscles and your bones become a bit damaged, so it helps them to grow and repair stronger and quicker as you become more advanced in your training. And it's also the functions of the muscles as well, so that helps you get fitter, and the proteins that you eat help support that.
Just talking about muscles and getting a bit tired there, Danny, how about when you come back from a run, what do you advise after that? Because obviously you put your muscles under stress, there might be some damage there. Yeah. What do you advise after a run for eating?
So there's 3 things to look for. I like to call the 3 R's of recovery. So that'll be repair, so that's your protein, replenishes your carbohydrates to replace the energy that you've used, and to rehydrate as well. So a complete meal which puts all them together, so let's say some salmon, rice and vegetables would be perfect, but in that window of opportunity to help get that recovery in quickly, milk is the best recovery option. Simply as it's a fluid, it contributes to the hydration, but it's a natural source of protein, sugars, which are good quality sugars. There's no additional sugars in there, and some quality fats, but it's also got electrolytes and sodium, and they help to replenish and keep you hydrated as well. So that's a great thing.
Okay, cheers. I know some people have the milkshakes or as well, but if you like a pint of milk, it's damn sight cheaper. And it does everything and it's quite natural. So I think certainly that's something Danny put me onto. I come back and have a banana or what have you, and sometimes after a run you just don't feel like eating. So a pint of milk, absolutely spot on. So thanks for that, Danny.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so when you've got the basis of those types of foods, it's how you structure that into your day. So particularly with the carbohydrates, as they're your main energy source, you want to make sure you're eating enough of them around your training. As we said about the recovery, depending on how long you've trained for, it's good to get them in to replenish your energy. But also beforehand, having something light that you can run off and works for you. So if you're training in the morning, a bowl of porridge is a great option. Something that's slowly released, like porridge oats, as it helps sustain your energy levels for longer.
Yeah. About how long before a run would you do that, Danny?
Ideally, I'd say 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours is a good window. If you're getting up early before work, it's a lot harder. So if you're really going for a longer training run, that's your only chance to go, then having something lighter would be an easier option. So that could be having maybe a small bowl of some cereal, something that's quickly digested, and it's really easy, it doesn't feel too heavy. A banana would be a good option.
I think again, this is another tip I got direct from Danny, was if you're training for up to an hour, really, you can actually go out without eating beforehand.
Absolutely.
As long as you've eaten properly the night before, the day before, your muscles will carry enough glycogen to fuel you for up to an hour. So if you need to get up early, go out for your train, have your breakfast, head off to work. That can work really well.
Absolutely. So just to follow on from that, so Chris mentioned the word glycogen. So that's the body's internal storage of carbohydrates, and that's what makes the primary energy source. So if you've got enough glycogen in your muscles, that's where they're stored, then you are going to have sufficient energy for your training. So that's why carbohydrates are important.
And again, talking about glycogen, and like I say, I'm just bouncing off what Danny's told me and what I've learned over the years. If you're eating properly and you've got a decent diet, your glycogen supplies in your muscles will actually keep you going for somewhere between an hour and a half and an hour 45 on average. So it's once you go beyond that window that you potentially need to think about taking nutrition on while you're running, i.e. gels, gummy sweets, whatever works for you. But don't think just because I'm going out for an hour and a half, oh my God, I'm going to need 4 gels, what have you. Realistically, you don't. It's only once you go beyond an hour and a half, an hour 45, that you need to be thinking about taking on some nutrition.
Of course, absolutely. And some people may struggle for energy during, they feel like they need those gels if they're going out for an hour's run. But if you are struggling, it's because you've underfueled beforehand. So that meal beforehand or that quick snack can make a world of difference.
And again, we've got another webinar coming up on the 2nd of February, and that's going to be aimed towards training towards the half marathon. And we'll talk about in that one of the things we'll talk about will be actually training and taking on nutrition during the run. So as your runs get longer, we'll talk about different ways of doing that in the February webinar. So.
Perfect.
Back to you, Danny. I keep interrupting.
No, that's all good.
And don't forget, keep firing your questions at us, and give us a like if you're watching, just so we know there's people out there. And fire your questions through on Facebook, and we'll answer as many as we can towards the end.
Great. So touching up on hydration now. So obviously the importance of hydration is key for everyday life. But when you are training as well, you actually need to hydrate more. So drinking more fluids throughout the day and also around your training. So typical recommendation is to drink anywhere between about 2 litres, maybe 2.5 litres per day on a general day. And that can be made up from water. It's not just 2.5 litres of water, it's made up of water. Tea and coffee also contributes to that. Cordials, milks, and even fruit and other foods contain water as well, so that can also contribute as well. But when you are training, so let's say you go out for an hour's run, then you're looking to include maybe an extra 500 mils to a litre extra as well.
And that extra fluids that you need will depend upon your own sweat rate and how warm, how hot it is, and how hard you're training. I know for me, I can pump it out big style when I'm training hard, so I need to think very carefully about replacing fluids. And it's also not just fluids, is it, Danny? It's electrolytes as well.
Course,
And an easy way of doing that, you can do it through diet, but an easy way to get the electrolytes back is the electrolyte tablets. I think we use, and we have the high five electrolyte tablets that we use. And I use those all the time, and they work really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So they're really effective means of getting those electrolytes in. So like I mentioned with the milk, that's a good thing to have afterwards to replenish. But having those effervescent tablets, which just pop in your water, you can have them beforehand or during your runs. It's nice and easy. And particularly if you're going through a bit more of an intense training week and you feel like you need to hydrate more, then it's always good to have as a drink throughout the day as well. Particularly as you move more into the summer months, which we'll talk about in future webinars, when it is hotter outside. It's rubbish at the minute, but having them will help hydrate because you'll sweat more as well. So is there any other areas you feel?
Me as the elite performance Olympic athlete here, and just thinking why I didn't get anywhere near that sort of status, being a mere mortal, when I'm out during the day, are you doing something and all of a sudden you pass this sweet shop, Tesco's, what have you, and the counters shout at you and somebody comes in and drags you in. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's afflicted like that. Give us an alternative, Danny, to the chocolate bar or bag of crisps, because it will make us not feel as hungry, but just so we can actually have something to eat that will actually benefit us. So talk us through a couple of alternatives, Danny.
Of course. So it's trying to find something as natural as possible. And it can be a challenge when you are at a petrol station or a service station like that. But nuts are a great one. They'll always be available in the shops. Milk is a great, easy, cheap thing to have as well. You can get packets of chicken. There'll be some good quality wraps. Beef biltong is another good one as well. Yeah. Very good quality protein.
Ooh, biltong, give me chocolate anytime. Biltong, I think I'll struggle with that, Danny. I think I might have to go for nuts as my alternative. Yeah. I know again, we're not talking about the big 200 gram bags of nuts.
Absolutely not.
We're looking about the pockets or the small pots that you can get by the counters in some of the supermarkets. Yeah. Somewhere between 30 and 50 grams is plenty. And the big benefit of that is that, yes, they're nice, you can chew on them, you make them last a long while, but also because they're proteins and your body absorbs them more slowly, what will actually happen is you will feel fuller for longer, so you won't get the sugar crash after a chocolate bar. Absolutely. So it will actually help. Yeah. So
you are feeding your body with nutrients as well. Chocolate bar is just empty calories.
Yeah, so if any of you see me walking into the local sweet shop with Mars bar in my hand, say, put it down, get those nuts. You've got to practice what you preach. So it's doing what will work for you. So,
and I think on top of that is if you find yourself you are buying snacks and looking for food when you are out, it's good to actually be prepared. So taking food with you, particularly if you know you're training in the evening after work, then having something that mid-afternoon, 2 hours before you get home, is an ideal opportunity. So that could be taking some pieces of fruit with you, a little pot of yogurt maybe with some berries or some nuts and seeds in there. Other things like little Baby Bell cheese are a really good thing to take as well. You can make your own energy bars. So rather than buying them in the shops where they're very sugar ridden, then you can get them making very simple oats, some nut seeds, some honey. There's a whole range of different things that you can put into them.
And just talking about that, Danny, quite often we lead busy lives these days, and we're talking about training straight after work, just to get things done and fit everything in life. Sometimes that necessitates going to the gym or training and going for a run on the way home from work and before dinner. And I think what Danny just said about mid-afternoon snack, like maybe some yogurt, a piece or two of fruit, will actually make sure you carry enough energy to get you through that. Yeah. But a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours before you train, and that will work really well.
Absolutely.
So Amanda Elaine, they're working behind the scenes with your questions, and they're just going to have our automated question service coming across now. Here's our first one, Amanda. Thank you. Right.
Okay.
So it's Mozzo Hill is asking, hello Mozzo,
Right.
thanks for listening. What are your thoughts on supplements like Tailwind? Tailwind.
Yeah.
I've been drinking too much Coke or something there, Mark. Yeah.
So Tailwind is becoming a lot, a very popular supplement recently. And I've got a few athletes who actually use Tailwind and they actually swear by it compared to other brands. But ultimately it comes down to what works for you. They can be much the same. And so if you've tried Tailwind, you find it's easier digested than others that you've tried in the past, then that's great. I can't say yes, Tailwind is definitely better than anything else because it does come down to you.
What sort of things are in that, Danny?
Much the same as there is with any other product.
So what we're saying is it's a convenience thing, really, isn't it?
If
With
you're
busy lives, if Tailwind works and it's got the right things and it helps you train, then go for it.
Well, yeah,
but there are plenty of others out
yeah,
there.
it's used very much like the high five drinks and gels.
Okay.
So it's a high carbohydrate, fast acting sugar drink that will contain electrolytes as well. And so it's perfect for when you are doing your longer runs and you need that energy during.
Thanks for that, Mozzo, and hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Two more coming now. So
one from James.
Right, so we've got James. If trying gels for the first time, do you dilute in water, take half a sachet, or neck a full one? Are we talking
of runs
further than 8 miles? I think just backtracking a little bit, I think the gels, there's different types of gels. You've got the more concentrated gels that work when you take them with water. And the view with those is just don't take the gel on its own when you're training. Have it with a bottle of water. Sometimes what I do to make life easier, if I'm carrying a drinks flask of water with me, I'll tip the gels in before I start. And it just makes it easier instead of trying to rip the gel and ending up with it half up your face. So a good way can be to mix it in, but if you want to take the gel separate and practice opening the sachets when you're running, the thicker ones, certainly you need to take on a reasonable amount, 3 or 4 good mouthfuls of water afterwards, because what happens then is that dilutes the gel into your stomach so they can be absorbed. You can also get isotonic gels, and we use the High Five Gel Aqua that we hand out during the races, and they need far less water to be drunk with them. So I use those, and I've used those on Ironman triathlons, marathons and ultras, and they work really, really well for me. But again, I always have them a bit more water because it helps make sure your body can absorb them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of, go for a full sachet as long as you take some water with it, James. And I think the other part of your question is, are we talking of runs further than 8 miles? I think we're talking about once you go over an hour 15, hour and a half, it's worth thinking about putting some nutrition in there. So it's a time thing, really.
Yeah, of course. Unless let's say you're racing, you are going for an hour and a half run, and that is a paced run, then looking to get 30 grams of carbs in per hour doing that. So let's say you take 1 or 2 gels for that 90-minute specific paced run, then having 1 or 2, or typically 1 gel during that would be absolutely fine. You may find you don't need a full gel, so just taking half would be absolutely fine. So again, it comes down to what works for you, but I'd say a full gel would be absolutely fine, 8 miles onwards.
Thanks for that, James, and hopefully that's answered your question. We've got Mozzo's back. He's obviously interested and still with us, so thanks for that. Mozza, sorry.
Mozza, yeah.
Are the oat bars with added protein too full of sugar? Well, Danny, that's one for you.
That's one for me. Okay, so there's a big hype of adding protein into pretty much any food nowadays, and you get the protein bars available anywhere as well. So some of them would be typically a flapjack with added protein in, and yes, they are very high in processed sugars, and they're not great quality at all. The protein bars, which you can get like the grenades, which are quite popular, they're actually quite low in sugar, but they're quite high in fibres, so polyols, which are very slowly digested in the gut. So I don't advise them as something to take before training, because it can cause a bit of gut discomfort, and certainly not taking on too many of them. So you shouldn't be eating more than one every 2 days, really. As a convenient snack, if you are driving and you're not, and it's way after training, or you're not training that day, then it would be okay. It's not a good replacement for, well, it's not better than eating actual food, but it's a matter of convenience, really.
And we often find that these are situated right next to the chocolate bars and the shelves, and to be honest, there's not an awful lot of difference in them. You might feel a little bit virtuous, and because they are so full of refined sugar, you will get that energy crash afterwards, so you will be better off with that pint of milk or a banana,
something better like that would be.
Yeah, there's better ways of taking on energy. But after you've just finished your gym session and you're on your way home, you've had a pint of milk, you want something else, then fine, it's not going to cause you any problem after a session when you want to fast replenish what you've used.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so any more questions? Is that it for now? Okay, well, hopefully we've answered some of your questions. I think many thanks to Danny for coming along and helping us out on this. Danny, just to give you a little bit more info on Danny. Danny is Danny Webber of Webber Performance Nutrition. So if you've got any specific advice, if you've got any specialist dietary requirements, or if you're training for a very fast PB and you're putting absolutely everything into this and you want to leave no stone unturned in your preparation, then certainly feel free to contact Danny direct for some specialist individual advice. I'm more than happy to help you. Danny's been working with me and helping me for the last 6-8 months, and it's made a massive difference. So I can certainly recommend it. What we'll do is we will put this webinar onto our YouTube channel. We'll hook it onto the top of the Facebook page, and there'll also be a link to Danny's website where you can contact Danny if you want to contact him direct. But for now, thanks ever so much. Hope you've had a great weekend and look forward to seeing you going forward. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. Good night.